Friends, greetings. After having so many discussions on a number of subjects, today I have selected the topic that should be very contemporary. You will agree with me that the topic today is very contemporary, very relevant, and very timely. You know what is the topic today? How should we live with present socio-political economic scenario or system? First of all, we should understand what kind of socio-political economic system is in front of us. In our country, in our society, in the entire world, or if we take the world as a society. The kind of problems that we are facing today, the kind of situation we are in today, the kind of scenario is in front of us as a human being or as a human society or as a society of humans. It is really demanding and pressing on us to find solutions to the problems that we are facing today. Today, the society or the human class, if we talk about the humanity, is having so many problems at its shoulders, unable to solve any one of them. And kind of a situation, kind of scenario, kind of atmosphere it is finding itself in. It is really troublesome, worrisome, it is really pitiful. If we talk about our country also, India also, you can just imagine what kind of situation we are facing today as a society, as a family, as an individual. On all fronts, social, political, and economic. The scenario is not at all positive. The scenario, if we really talk in a purposeful manner, demands immediate and urgent solution to the problems that we are facing today. Today I thought let me discuss with you all and let me present to you some of the factors, some of the issues that are very relevant and very timely. And when we discuss about the topic today, how should we live with present socio-political economic system, we will evaluate the kind of roles that our ruling class or opposition class they are, playing, or rather they are acting. Then what kind of politics we are having in our country, or for that matter in the entire world also. What kind of politics we are having? A politics full of religion or a politics devoid of religion? And then as a crowd or as a voter group or as a public, what kind of behavior pattern we are depicting or displaying or we are showing. These three angles we will have today for discussion. And our discussion, our focus will be on these three main issues. But these three things we will be discussing vis-a-vis the present socio-political economic situation or system or scenario or atmosphere. India got independence in 1947. 1947, timing, if you imagine, we were not there, but if you imagine what kind of situation was there at that time. India was at the crossroads. India had to decide, or India required to decide the course of action for its future, for its growth, for its development, to take care of its society, to take care of its population, so that everybody feels, kind of motivated, engaged for the growth and development of India, progress of India. India wanted to be a prosperous country, perhaps at that time. And that is why leaders that time, they must have tried to chart a course of events or a course of action that takes India to a path of growth, development, and progress, where everybody feels motivated, everybody feels engaged, everybody feels, employed for the good and growth of India. The leaders that time must have hoped and expected to turn the course of events for positive developments. But today, how do we feel about India? How do we feel about ourselves? How do we feel about our governance? Has, or Rather, the situation today, what we are facing or what we are experiencing today, do they show the same kind of things with which our journey started in 1947? Are we feeling motivated? Are we feeling development oriented? Are we hopeful about our progress, our growth, our development after 73 years? After 73 years, an introspection leads us to nothing but negatives. But why? Why are we feeling, or why do we have a feeling that the atmosphere around us is less positive, more negative? Despair and not hope is perhaps the order of the day. Why we are less hopeful? Why we are having more and more despair so far as our progress is concerned, so far as our present is concerned or future is concerned? The real change or transformation in the world is experienced most in the 21st century. In the 21st century, if you see what kind of developments or changes or transformations we have experienced, they are many times more and higher than what we have experienced in 20th century or earlier. The way countries are being ruled today, the way countries are being ruled today does not bode well for the world and its various societies. Why? Why do we have this sort of feeling? If we see in the 21st century, for our country, India, Congress-led UPA and BJP-led NDA, they ruled the country 10 years each, starting 2000 or 1999, whatever you call it. Most leaders today in the world, particularly for our country also, most leaders are mindful of their continuation in power at any cost, without eyes on the common good and larger interest. Why politicians want to cling to power, want to have power at any cost, without having capacities, abilities to solve any of the problems that is being faced, that we are facing? Crises in 21st century are different from those of 21st century and earlier times, and they all demand a priority focus from the ruling dispensation as well as the opposition. The problems that we are facing today, they want a prioritized focus from both ruling class as well as opposition. Opposition were in power sometimes earlier, and the people who are in ruling capacity today, ruling dispensation today, were opposition sometimes earlier. In India, legislature, executive and judiciary, what kind of roles they have played since independence? 73 years we have experienced them. Perhaps they all have deterred from their goals and agenda, disappointing the country. Legislature, judiciary and executive, perhaps they have disappointed more than they have given reasons to the country to feel proud about them. Ignoring the pressing issues like poverty, if you count on your fingers, if we count on our fingers, there are many problems before us, in front of us. Ignoring the pressing issues like poverty, unemployment, hunger, loss of income, loss of business, corruption, depleted or destructed education and healthcare systems, frauds, crimes, child malnutrition, women exploitation, women related crimes, GDP loss, demonetization, GST, coronavirus, lockdown, etc., etc., etc. You just go on counting, it is endless. List is endless. Problems are plenty. The ruling class and the opposition are shamelessly busy in promoting fake news, mixing politics and religion, diverting public attention to non-issues. If you experience today, if you want to focus your attention on the ruling class as well as the opposition class, you find that, or you see that, they are more busy or mostly busy, shamelessly perhaps, in promoting fake news, mixing politics and religion, diverting public attention to non-issues. For what purpose? Just to remain in power at any cost. At the cost of the public, at the cost of the country, at the cost of the resources, everything. Without wasting any time, let us discuss the three things that are destroying our country, as Indian society perhaps is clueless and lost in wilderness. The role of ruling and opposition in handling the crowd and crisis to achieve national goals will also be discussed. Our discussion will be on three things. We will be having discussion on ruling class and opposition, what kind of roles they are playing, how they are behaving, how they are showing their behavior patterns, what kind of behavior patterns they have developed or they have adopted to themselves. Then we will have a discussion on the mixing of religion and politics, if it is good, if it is bad, whether it will continue, whether it can subside, it can be done away with or not. And then we will have a discussion as the last topic, the crowd, the public behavior, or the role of public also. What kind of role of public is expected, is required. If you remember, a problem in 1947 is still a problem in 2020, rather much bigger, much worse. Whatever problems India was facing in 1947, they are still problems. And their shape, their form is more dangerous today. They are having more dangerous proportions, connotations, or appearance today. It was a small or a smallest in 1947. 2020, it is biggest in shape, in size, in appearance, everything. The same problem is now bigger, much bigger than what it was in 1947. Many new problems got loaded onto India's shoulders in the last 73 years. Different governments rule the country. In spite of or despite their best attempts to solve them, we can presume that they tried to solve the problems that India was facing or were facing for last 73 years. Still, problems have gone up in number, in intensity, in quality, in quantity, everything. In 2020, the problems are so many that neither the ruling nor the opposition knows anything about their resolution. They do not know from where to start, where to end, how to start, how to end, when to start, when to end, so that India is able to resolve some of the problems that India is facing. From 1999 to 2004 and 2014 to today, BJP-led NDA created problems of their own. Between 2004 to 2014, Congress-led UPA had their own share of problems. Now both are sitting idle as they do not know what to do with these problems. If you see the day-to-day pattern or day-to-day, the daily routine of the ruling class and the daily routine of the opposition, you will see that they are sitting idle. They do not know what to do. They don't have any idea about the problem and its resolution. Whether to hug or hate, kiss or kick them, they do not know. India is bleeding and bleeding profusely beyond the limit. The kind of problems India is facing today, India is bleeding profusely. With almost 800 members of parliament, including, if we include Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha both, we have around approximately 800 members of parliament. And if we take into calculation the state legislative assemblies and the state legislative councils, we have around 4,200 assembly members, council members. The total 800 plus 4,200, 800 members of parliament, and 4,200 members of legislative assemblies and councils. In force, none of the national or state level problems appear anywhere near resolution despite having so many leaders in our country, almost 5,000 leaders in our country. And then you add the central cabinet, then you add the state cabinets, 30, 35, 37 state cabinets and the central cabinet. And each cabinet must be having more than 50 members as ministers. Despite having so many resources, despite having so many people or leaders, so-called leaders, political leaders, none of the problem being faced by India is near any resolution. Rather, they are piling like garbage mountain or a mountain of a garbage. If you cross some area or some roads, you will find garbage piling up. And after some time, if you go across that same area, maybe after 2 months, 4 months, 6 months, you see a mountain of garbage or a garbage mountain. You then feel surprised. How did it happen? In such a less time, the mountain has become so big of garbage. Now India is also facing such a garbage, but it is a garbage of problems that cannot be solved by our present ruling class as well as opposition class. The ruling dispensation and opposition both are helpless, directionless. BJP-led NDA is ruling 18 states and union territories. Congress-led UPA is ruling 6 states and union territories. And single party is ruling 7 other states apart from one president's rule. No state government is capable to lead by example in resolution of any problem or crisis. Any problem, any crisis, no state government can present itself as a role model to solve the problem or the crisis faced by that state or by the country. You see any problem, demonetization or GST, central government created these two problems. Now central government itself is clueless, directionless. It does not know what to do, how to do, what to do, when to do. And if you see the coronavirus and the lockdown, neither the central government nor the state governments are in a position to do anything about it. They do not know what to do, how to handle it, how to tackle it, how to face it, how to square it, how to struggle against the coronavirus, or how to fight the coronavirus and the related lockdowns. Ruling class is clueless and living in its own world, having condemnable idea about problems being faced by the country. Besides, it is in a state of denial. The central government and the central ruling party, BJP, does not accept that the country is having so many problems. It is in total denial of any problem present. Opposition is sitting idle, waiting for the public to start some sort of demonstration or commotion. Opposition do not have any idea about any of the problems and related resolution or its resolution. Socio-political-economic anarchy is setting itself destructively on the Indian soil. The kind of scenario or situation that is developing today slowly and gradually, it is leading to a kind of socio-political-economic anarchy, and ultimately we will be at loss to handle them. Now, after having a discussion on ruling class and opposition, let us have a discussion on politics and religion. How or what sort of politics we are having, mixed or not mixed with religion. When we conduct a puja or prayer for anything, we like to keep it sacred. We try to keep it private. We do not make noises about it. Actually, if we do anything on individual basis or family basis, we do not make a noise or hallabaloo about it. We don't do too much of noises, or we don't create too much of noise related to our puja or prayer that we do at our family level or at our individual level. We keep it confidential, we keep it private. Then why do we promote religion in public life? But if the same puja or prayer, or if the same thing is done in a public domain, why do we create noises? Or even if we don't do puja or we don't do any prayer, we engage in religiosity in a way that hampers or harasses or causes loss to the society, harm to the society. Why do we do that? Rather, we possess a tendency to show dual character in the way that personal preferences are kept private and public preferences are profoundly noisy, creating loss or harm to society, to us also, to even we also, individuals also. Congress mixed politics and religion in its own way. Looking at the fragmented Hindu society, it focused itself on Muslims and favored Muslim appeasement. It promoted Shahi Imam of Jama Masjid, who used to issue fatwa or a statement to vote for Congress in various elections. Congress during elections had its own agenda while mixing religion with politics, and it was mostly centric to Muslims, or it was Muslim centric or Muslim issues centric, and that is why Congress promoted Shahi Imam of Jama Masjid. It continued for many years. Muslims themselves are the biggest losers or sufferers of this policy or approach of Congress party. They are almost nowhere in the mainstream of Indian socio-political economic system. Muslims today don't find themselves as an important aspect or wheel, you can say, or as an important entity so far as Indian socio-political economic mainstream is concerned. Now let us talk about BJP. BJP changed the mixing pattern of politics and religion, seeing that hardly 60% to 70% of Indian voters cast their votes in any elections. It focused itself on Hindus because Congress was focusing on Muslims. Congress was trying to take advantage of the fragmented Hindu society. The BJP started focusing on Hindus. Seeing that 85% of the population, total population, belongs to Hindus in our country, 80 to 85% of the total population belongs to Hindus, BJP thinking that if even 50% of Hindu voters vote for it, it will be possible, BJP will be able to win elections and form governments in the country, in the state, at the central level, at the state level. And that is why BJP started talking about Hindus and Hindu issues to take advantage of its population. Ram temple, etc., whatever, was one such issue, is one such issue. Now, mixing politics and religion will always be a loss-making proposition for the society. Why it will be a loss-making proposition for the society? For the simple reason that when we talk about religion, people do not want to listen anything. The logical thinking disappears. Illogical thinking sets in. People do not see anything in the right perspective. What is good, what is bad? That vision is blurred. For example, take the case of India. We will focus our discussion on India. 85% of population is Hindus. The ill effects of government policies, decisions or measures will affect Hindus most as they are in majority. Now BJP formed government with the votes of Hindus. Now all the problems that we are facing today because of the wrong policies of BJP government, demonetization, GST, Corona, lockdown, loss of business, loss of income, loss of unemployment, suicides, crime, fraud, everything, whatever you call it. Now who is bearing the brunt of these problems? Mostly Hindus, because they form 80 to 85% of the population in India. And BJP, despite winning elections with the help of Hindus, they are causing maximum loss to Hindus themselves. The ill effects of government policies, decisions or measures will affect Hindus most as they are in majority. Hindus are suffering most and maximum due to all the aforesaid crises or problems being faced by the country. The BJP government is causing losses to the same section of the society most who helped it win election after election. The status of Hindus will be like Muslims within no time. Today, as Muslims are experiencing themselves nowhere in the Indian socio-political economic mainstream, Hindus also will have the same experience within no time. And that is what we are experiencing today. The current financial year, the GDP growth of India is going to be in the negative territory. Some people are saying it is minus 15%, some people are saying minus 20%, some people are saying minus 25%. All this means that the GDP will shrink, and shrinking of the GDP means people will become poorer, very much poorer in comparison to what they were having last year income. Now the same political class or government causes maximum loss to the same religious segment on whose votes it comes to power by its policies and decisions and their negative effects. Because of their bad or wrong policies and decisions and their negative effects, the same ruling dispensation or ruling class will cause maximum damage, loss to the same segment on whose votes it came to power. This is what is happening in India. BJP government is causing maximum loss to Hindus as they form the majority segment, that is 80 to 85% of the population, total population belongs to Hindus. This is true for any country in the world where government is formed on basis of religion or where government is mixing religion with politics. Similar adaptations can be examined for castes also. Fragmentation on basis of caste may likely cause total collateral loss to the Indian society. To err is human. Is it possible to keep separate politics and religion? To err is human. To hide mistakes or blunders, humans always take recourse to religion or religiosity. The politics and religion may always be combined, rather may not always be possible by the political class to keep separate. And hence, politics and religion may always be combined by the political class to hide its blunders and serve its agenda or interests. And that is why it is very difficult to keep politics and religion separate. Even if it is minimum, that is preferable. But if it is not getting mixed, politics and religion keeping separate is the ideal situation. Spirituality is higher than religiosity. Spirituality helps one achieve even unscalable human heights in terms of intellectual acquisitions or achievements or aspirations. Religiosity can cause temporary upheavals if activities are not channeled properly positively. If the activities are not as per the day-to-day requirements or day-to-day precedents or day-to-day traditions prevailing in the society for centuries, then religiosity is going to cause temporary upheavals or maybe long-term upheavals also. There is a hell of a difference between religiosity and spirituality. Spirituality is always preferred over religiosity. After having discussion on ruling class and opposition and mixing politics and religion, let us have a discussion, the final discussion on the public, the crowd or the voters. As an individual or as an entity in the society, how do we behave? How do we display our behavior patterns? There is a saying, as is the king, so is the subject. The king behaves in a certain way. The subject, that means the public, also likes to behave in the same certain way. Thomas Jefferson, third USA president, said, "The government you elect is the government you deserve." One of his famous quotes. In a democracy, this is very true, very right. Totally true, totally right. Crowd or the public has mostly suffered silently for all the blunders of its political class. Because after giving votes, after helping a political party win the election, crowd goes into or takes the form of a silent majority. It does not evaluate the performance of the government on a day-to-day basis or on a month-to-month basis, or issue-based evaluation is gone, disappears, and that is why crowd will always suffer, public will always suffer. The crowd or the public suffers mostly silently for all the blunders of its political class, as it prefers to vote on temporary issues, sidelining major ones. It can expect mostly negative results. Voting on money, offers, caste, religion, appeasement, etc. is suicidal. They all cause losses. They all create damage, collateral damage that cannot be repaired for a long time. Today, public is suffering at its own hands as it allowed or allows others to take decisions for its day-to-day issues and matters of importance and related to its survival. Today, most of the decisions related to survival, related to income, related to functionality, related to, family, society, country, whatever, because public has delegated to somebody else, or rather to the ruling class, to the opposition, without having a direct or an active stake in decision making process. And that is why public is suffering at its own hands. Crowds mostly engage themselves in non-productive and harmful activities because the political class always promotes or wants to engage the crowd or the public in these kind of activities. both ruling class and opposition do not bother for public and take it for granted. Do not bother. They think that the public or the crowd can always be played according to their whims and fancies, and that is why they take the public for granted. They think that the ruling class and the opposition think that they can always play with the sentiments of the public, with the sentiments of the crowd, and that is why they take it for granted. They take the public for granted. Unfortunate, friends, but this is the reality today. The system of governance needs to change for the better. A kind of governance system we need to develop, we need to implement, that takes our country to the path of growth, progress, and development. This was all that I wanted to discuss with you, friends, today about the role, about the agenda of the ruling class and the opposition, how they are behaving, then the positive or negative side effects or effects of mixing politics and religion, and then our role as a public, as crowd. Thank you, friends. Thanks a lot. All the best to all of you. Thank you, friends.